Hey, this is Kyle and Adam at ProjectionHub back again answering the SBA burning questions. Today's question that we're going to talk about was actually a Reddit post that I found out there of someone seeking a little bit of guidance. But I think that I say the everyday person or the average person out there who's considering buying a business, this question might resonate. And I think there's a couple components of this that will be helpful for us to touch on. And so I'm going to read this, let you kind of give me your initial take and your initial advice that you would give to this person. But before I read that, just a quick reminder for anybody watching this video, both Adam and I come from an SBA lending background. I was a measly old SBA loan officer for a handful of years. Adam was the executive director of an SBA lender for 12 plus years. And now with ProjectionHub, we help people with projections and business plans and finding and applying for and closing SBA loans. So that's kind of where the background's coming from when we're giving you this feedback. So I'm going to read this quickly for Adam, and he's going to give us his take. And it's titled, Need Guidance on Business Acquisition Financing Options. It says, my partner and I are considering purchasing an existing business valued at $150,000. My partner brings over 20 years of relevant industry experience and has extensive knowledge of the operations. We initially assumed this process would be straightforward since we have more than the asking price in home equity and expected to either draw against it or refinance. However, our bank has indicated this won't work as we anticipated. Given that we don't have substantial savings or a cash deposit, we're wondering if there's still viable paths to acquire this business. We're both planning to work full-time in the business and feel confident about our expertise, but we're unfamiliar with our financing and acquisition options in this process. So there are a lot of components to that I'm like, this sounds like something we hear on a weekly basis for those. So I'll let you give kind of the first dibs here.
Yeah. So, I just love that line. However, our bank has indicated this won't work as we anticipated. Feels like, oh man, there could be like 100 different possibilities of what that means or why, so I'm going to speculate on a few things that I think could be going on here that hopefully will be relevant for others in the same type of situation. So one, I would say it's a $150,000 deal. And you said you're going to a bank. And so at a traditional SBA lender that's using the SBA 7A program, 150,000 is really small for them. Probably feels really big for you as a buyer. Would feel big for me if I was borrowing that money to buy a business. And, I would want to take that seriously. But for the typical bank lender, like they're looking at typically what I see 350,000 or above is where they want to start playing. So possibility one is like the bank says they're not interested because they don't want to. Yeah, it's the same amount of work or more work to get a $150,000 deal done as it is a $350,000 or a $1.5 million deal for that matter. So that's possibility one. I'd say number two, they said here that they don't have substantial savings or a cash deposit. So you're going to have to put in 10% equity into the deal. Typically for an SBA acquisition, you can borrow the other 90% from SBA, but they're going to want you to have that cash available. Plus, they don't want to take your last dollar as a down payment. They want you to have some rainy day funds. So, I would say in theory, if you were to get a HELOC, if you were to already have a HELOC
Right.
and you drew the money and you had the cash just sitting there,
right,
in your checking account, I suspect it may be looked at differently here. But since you don't already have it, the way that's going to look to the bank is you're borrowing 100% of it, right? You're borrowing the SBA loan plus you're like taking out a HELOC to get the extra equity. So it's not really true equity; it's borrowed. So that could be the problem too. They don't want to do 100% financing. And then the last one I'll mention here says we're both planning to work full time in the business. So that means you don't have outside income, which just makes the deal a little bit risky. The business has to work. If the business is only valued at 150,000, I doubt it's doing a ton of profit or take home pay for the owner. So they may look at that and say, it just doesn't, there's not enough cash flow here.
And now it has to support, you would assume two partners, right?
Yeah.
Probably both want to get paid out of this.
Yep.
So.
And the loan payment.
Yeah. Yep. Those are all three of the different components. I think there's some interesting things in there just to address. One, it's not fair that an SBA lender is not going to want to spend their right, that they can pick and choose what deals they want to work on a program that is subsidized by the federal government, that taxpayers pay for it. That stinks. I totally get that. One thing I wanted to say about that is there are lenders out there who specialize in that range of financing. It's just not the bank that you're probably familiar with that you would apply for that. So if you're out there and you heard that and you're like, well, what the heck? Why can't I get my SBA loan? There are lenders out there who do that. They're just a little bit harder to find because they're not Chase Bank or PNC Bank or Old National or whoever Huntington Bank. It's not going to be a name you're familiar with. It's going to be a more localized, I guess what you would call like non-deposit lender, most likely. That might be what you're looking for. So SBA microlenders, SBA community advantage lenders, there's other alternative lenders out there that are probably going to be a better bet. Or like you said, some combination of different financing or funding functions. That's HELOC. That's another thing right there. It's like these people assumed, hey, we have equity. Why doesn't that, we're putting that on the line. Why doesn't that count as our owner investment? And it's just like, I know it feels frustrating because it's like, why doesn't money over here count for the same thing over here if I move it over here? But if you show up with 150 grand in a bank account, a lender's not going to probably ask questions. They're not going to probably ask like, hey, where did that $150,000 come from? But if you show up with $150,000 in equity and then you say like, well, I'm just going to take this out and then use that, then they're going to have probably concerns or questions about you doing that.
Yeah.
Which maybe it's worth saying, if you have the amount in equity, you might just be able to get I guess maybe the terms aren't going to probably be as friendly on the repayment of that HELOC. Maybe I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but you might just be able to finance it yourself too, if you really need to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what I said. That price, they have more than the asking price in home equity.
Right.
And yeah, they might be able to get the full amount or close to it out of a HELOC. Yeah.
Honestly, my recommendation would probably be, I feel like every time there's a 50% chance I'm going to talk about the SBA microloan program whenever we make these videos. I think that some sort of combination probably makes most sense here. Like if the person's trying to sell it for $150,000, chances are, if they can't ask for much more than that, they're probably gonna have a hard time finding a buyer. They're probably gonna be willing to do some sort of seller financing, like maybe not 100%, but even if they seller financed, 50,000 of it, and you can get a $50,000 microloan and you $50,000 in HELOC or something like that. Like you might be able to piecemeal it together to get the seller what they want, and you probably save yourself a whole lot of complexity on a 7A loan for a lot of red tape you got to go through doing that.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, any other thoughts on that are in there? One thing I wanted that this makes me think of that I was going to ask about was, actually no, that was a different question. I'm jumping ahead to our next question I was going to ask you, so I'm going to leave it at that. But one thing I do like here is that between the two of them, they have a ton of industry experience and extensive knowledge of the operations. So to give these people some hope, I would want to tell this person if I was talking to them, like, don't get discouraged because a lender's not interested in doing this. It's not, most likely from what we know, it's not like that nobody wants to talk to you or that they think this is a bad idea. It's just that they want to make money, so they want to work on a bigger deal. But for people who have a ton of industry experience for an acquisition at $150,000, there's absolutely a way for them to like achieve this acquisition. So, the whole like they're both gonna work full time in the business is probably a bit of a question mark. Like, do you have spouses who will have income or something like that? So that would probably become a bit of a question mark. But I would probably try to tell these people like keep going. There's an option here for them to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, there we have it. Every day answering the burning questions of Reddit when it comes to SBA. So if you have any questions, if you find yourself in an interesting predicament, or maybe you're a first-time business buyer or first-time startup and you think you're going to need financing and you're like, these are the types of things you're just not quite sure about. Like, why won't these lenders talk to me, or who do I go talk to? We offer a free SBA review down in the description below. You can fill that out. Let us know a little bit about your situation. We'll give you our kind of take on what we would do, some recommendations, some places you can check out. So feel free to fill that out, or you can contact us at support@projectionhub.com if you've got some other questions you want to talk about. So thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks.